landscape. Alright, throughout history, geography and landscapes have influenced cultures and groups since the beginning of time. When you think about it, if you're living in Africa or Asia, North and South America or the islands, your geography influences the way you live your life and everything you're doing, from your relationships to your cultural and beliefs and everything. In Africa, you're reliant on someone to get you water. Your relationship with them is going to be extremely different than your relationship with someone here where you can just drive to the grocery store. So you're going to be much more reliant on someone, and everything is affected by the geography that you're living in. As migrations occur, culture is exchanged throughout different ways and culture is adapted. So if someone moves from one culture to another, their culture might be adapted, and so everything is a big mixing pot of a bunch of cultures, making truly indigenous cultures very unique and a thing to be cherished. The United States has given indigenous cultures specific rights and protections in order to protect and preserve all of their culture and make sure that they are living comfortably and their culture is preserved. Hawaii has not been given any indigenous culture rights, and they were unrightfully annexed by the United States and became a state, but Native Hawaiians have no indigenous people rights. Prior to January 17, 1893, Hawaii was self-sovereignty and they were a self-governing nation, and around that time 12 Haole businessmen decided to come in and they wanted to take over the Hawaiian Islands and develop it, and the queen at the time, Liliuokalani, was not allowing it until the United States decided to get involved, and they sent Marines, and she was really scared of the American military, and so she decided to step down, and she seceded her power to the United States, and then Hawaii became a territory of the United States from 1893 until 1959 when Hawaii achieved statehood. And so then after statehood, there's been lots of pushes to regain sovereignty for Hawaiians, and there's two main movements. One movement trying to completely separate from the United States, and the other movement, such as the Kahului Hawaii Group and Office of Hawaiian Affairs, which are trying to have a restricted sovereignty, so they're still part of Hawaiian as a state, but they're also given some sovereignty and self-governing rights. Statehood has had a massive impact on tourism. In How Statehood Changed Hawaii's Economy by Jared Latson, he says that as Hawaii became a state, the amount of people coming into the area increased drastically, as well as land development and job opportunities, so the economy has drastically changed. In 1966, the first flights arrived in Honolulu, and the amount of people arriving annually doubled and has continued to increase drastically. $300 million is produced annually just based off tourism in Hawaii, which is greater than their second two major economically money-making things, which are pineapples and sugarcane. In Recasting Identity, Reclaiming Paradise, and Reimagining Community Among the Kanaka Maoli by Kay Dooley, they talk about in the late 1960s when there was a push to develop an area called the Kalama Valley near Honolulu, which was about 500 acres of land. Many movements were attempting to not let that happen because Native people were living there, but all failed, and in 1971 construction began and 67 families were removed from their land. Now that has happened many times, and all of the families that were there ended up moving and migrating to different areas such as the mainland because they couldn't afford to live there and they didn't have land to live in anymore. So then all cultures lost once they're migrating, and then indigenous cultures just disappearing. So here I have get it on. This is Honolulu right now, so it looks just like a massive city. And then this is Honolulu as well, so it's just a huge city. And then this is the last undeveloped piece of land in all of Hawaii. And so right here, that's it. So Hawaii has just become so overdeveloped and everything, it's crazy. Many people make this argument that Hawaiians are not indigenous to their land, and so they shouldn't be given indigenous people rights. But in the movement and counter-movement dynamics, the Hawaiian sovereignty movement by Dio Alto, he defines indigeneity as being native to one's land, but there's a deeper definition to this revolving around culture, beliefs, and your way of life. Hawaiians are indigenous to the Pacific Islands because they have always been there and have always been migrating between the islands, and their way of life, their relationships with each other, and their beliefs revolve around the Pacific Islands, from the boats that they take out to ceremonies and May Day. Every single thing that they do revolves around their geography and where they have come from, which is the Pacific Islands. Julie says, with the examination of an ancient navigation and the argument that Hawaiians were well established on their islands for hundreds of years prior to Western contact, Hawaiians were reminded that they had a unique identity that had been trampled on by outsiders. So Hawaiians had been in the Pacific Islands migrating, and then they finally made it to the islands of Hawaii, and they were there for hundreds of years developing their own culture and governing system without any outside influence, making them indigenous until the United States came in and trampled all of their ideas and took over. So therefore, they were unrightfully annexed by the United States, but also are indigenous to their area and therefore should be given the same rights as Native Americans are given on the mainland. Due to the tourism that has been brought from statehood and the economy that has been boosted, Hawaii cannot lose statehood just because their entire economy would go underground, just because $300 million annually is developed based on tourism, and so they really need the statehood to keep bringing tourists and keep their economy boosting and job opportunities. But Native Hawaiians should be given things such as land and discounts and things just to ensure that they're staying there and that no more migrations occur, so that way the indigenous culture that has been there for so long is not lost. Thank you.
Good girl.